What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So I just finished, literally just finished recording the Dalen Everett video that is now up on the channel. And so I got to thinking about all the turnover and turmoil that is in Clemson, South Carolina right now as we speak. And I just knew that before signing day takes all of the media attention, all the spotlight, I'm going to have a lot of content on that. So before we got into all the signing day stuff, I needed to make a video on this. So let's go back to before this season even started to begin this analysis of the Clemson program and the state that they're in right now. So, Clemson head coach Dabo Swinney has made it abundantly clear multiple times that he is not and was not a fan of the transfer portal, and basically outright said he refuses to use it to improve his team. He made this very clear before the season started last year. This year, earlier in the offseason, he made this very clear. He's mentioned it again during the season. He doesn't seem to be really changing his tune on this too much. And now, regardless of how you feel about the portal and its impact on college football, good or bad, that's not the point of this. It is just reality that the portal does exist and that the best teams in America are leveraging it to fill needs on their teams. Alabama's used the portal effectively. Look at Jamison Williams right now, Henry To'oTo'o. Georgia has used the portal. They got JT Daniels that way. They got Tyke Smith, even though he got hurt. They got Darian Kendrick from Clemson that way. And he's been a starting corner for them. Hell, Michigan State literally just built almost their entire team off the portal just about with Mel Tucker, and it looks like he's going to try to do it again next year. It's obvious and apparent that the best teams in America are using the portal to some extent at least, and to just ignore that and pretend it's not there because you don't like it is just simply being stubborn. Because it's stubborn, it's dumb, because it's just actively ignoring an avenue for improving your team that everyone else that you're competing with is exploiting. So it's literally just a handicap on your own team. Why would you handicap your own team? It doesn't make sense. As if college football wasn't hard enough to begin with without handicapping yourself by ignoring a massive facet. Look, their in-state rival, South Carolina, literally just like yesterday, picked up Spencer Rattler and Austin Stogner. Spencer Rattler, by far the most talented quarterback in that program's history. You need to acknowledge and use the portal. Clemson is losing current players out of the portal as it is already, and maybe not the biggest names, but it's still, you're taking roster attrition every year from the draft, from graduation, and from the portal. You're also having all of your competition exploit the portal to improve their positions, and you're not, because your head coach doesn't like that it's in college football. Sorry, dude. A lot of people don't like it's in college football. A lot of coaches don't like that it's in college football. They're still using it because that's what you do when you want to win games with a dominant and build a dominant program. You have to use everything at your disposal to build up that roster, to build up that program, and to build up that football team. Now, he may yet change his tune on the portal, and he absolutely needs to be honest, if he wants to continue to build a consistent winner. Because like I said, everybody he goes up against is going to use it. Some of his own players may end up leaving in the portal in the future. Some of them already have. And if you want to be able to consistently build a winner, like I said, use everything at your disposal. And if you don't change your attitude towards this, Dabo I'm speaking about with this you here, if he doesn't change his attitude towards the portal, that could play a large part in his own undoing going forward. But I think the issues go a lot deeper than just the portal, because it really, in my opinion, the portal issue represents Dabo as a whole. He has been undeniably incredibly successful doing his own thing, doing things differently, regardless what everybody else is doing, regardless what everybody else says. It's been pretty common knowledge now that he has built his program differently than a lot of other people. The culture at his program is unique, to say the least, and that has worked pretty freaking well for him so far. They got 2 national titles out of it. Anybody that has 2 national titles, good luck trying to tell them they need to change if they don't already think that on their own, because who are you to tell them that? Short of Nick Saban, there's not a coach out there that is in a position to lecture Dabo Swinney, really. And that, I think, has led to a lot of his stubbornness, and you can see it in a lot of different ways. You've heard some rumblings from Clemson fans and boosters that are concerned about him being too stubborn to change things going forward in an ever-changing sport. But those could all just be rumors, and let's just, for the sake of argument, assume they are all just rumors. There's no validity to them. What you cannot deny is that the offense in particular needs, after this past year, and honestly you could argue over the last few years, has needed some new creativity and ideas after last year's performance on the field in particular. And yet, Dabo just lost his offensive coordinator, and this gives him a huge opportunity to hire some new blood, get some new ideas and schemes within the program. And what does Dabo do? He promotes from within. He doesn't take a chance on anybody outside the program who doesn't already think like him. He promotes somebody from within who he knows who runs the very similar scheme to what they've been running. And look, that's not to say the new offensive coordinator won't work out, because for all I know, he'll be the greatest thing that's ever happened to Clemson football. But it goes along with the overarching theme that has been Clemson, the Clemson program right now, and that is that Dabo is starting to sort of fall behind the times in some ways, largely because he's been too stubborn to change things. And now he's had success with it the old way, like I said, and I think that makes it even worse. And again, I'm not saying that Clemson's going to suck going forward or anything like that. It's just a concerning trend that you can notice within the program. And as you see, they have a chance to use the transfer portal. They don't. They have a chance to hire new offensive talent, offensive coordinators. They don't. They stick with their same old system. And it might work out beautifully, but it might not. And that stubbornness trend we've begun to see, I think, is some cracks in the foundation, some chinks in the armor at Clemson that are concerning. And it's concerning to me. It's concerning to a lot of Clemson fans. And most of them, in my opinion, all come back to and revolve around the head man, Dabo Swinney. Now, on to the other issues facing the program right now, which I think are even bigger than the ones we've already talked about. Dabo is now all alone. And when I say all alone, what I mean is his longtime offensive coordinator, Tony Elliott, gone. His longtime defensive coordinator, Brent Venables, who's arguably been the best assistant coach in college football over the last decade, is also now gone. And on top of all of that, his AD is now gone as well. It's literally just Dabo left. He's not hiring anybody from outside the program either, so it's not like he's getting any big-time new help to come be coordinators and help out with like I said earlier, new ideas and give him some extra help. It's really just Dabo and what he already has at the program right now. And losing an AD, losing an athletic director, is a bigger loss than a lot of people will think it is, just due to an uncertainty in the program from the top level down. Yes, you have an interim, but is he going to be your AD long term? Do you really want to make any contract decisions while he's in office, especially if you're going to get a new AD? How much do you trust him? How experienced is he? And they control things like, what's the recruiting budget? What's the budget for your coaching staff? Now that you have to make 2 new coordinator hires, those things are very important. And then on top of losing the AD, which I think, like I said, a lot of people kind of overlooked, you lose Tony Elliott. Huge loss, in my opinion, because it's always going to be a huge loss whenever you lose a coordinator that has been with a program for as long as Tony Elliott has been with Clemson. It's always going to have a massive impact on the program going forward. You change play callers, you sort of change the culture a little bit. Now, not necessarily in this case, because like I said, Dabo stayed with a guy from within promoted up, but it's still a big loss when you have an experienced and tenured coordinator like that go away. But still, the biggest loss yet, even bigger than the Tony Elliott loss and the athletic director loss, I think bigger than both of them put together, honestly, is losing Brent Venables to Oklahoma. He has been, like I said, in my opinion, the best assistant coach in college football over the last decade. He's also, in my opinion, been the thing that sort of makes this Clemson program go, alongside Dabo Swinney, of course. But I feel like without Brent Venables, Dabo is not where he is right now. He doesn't win those 2 national titles. Now, maybe he does. This is just my opinion. I feel like Brent Venables did a lot of work that Dabo probably couldn't have replaced with another coordinator that wasn't as good as him. He has consistently put together absolutely outstanding defenses, and I mean outstanding defenses, that have really held up a lot of these Clemson teams, especially the ones that didn't win national titles but still made the playoff or were still very competitive. The defenses held a lot of them up. And now you lose that. At least you lose the guy who's been able to do that over the past, like I said, decade almost. He's also beloved by the players. He recruits at an absolutely elite level on the defensive side of the ball, which is another huge loss for Clemson to lose an ace recruiter like that. You can already see that impact. Clemson has lost multiple highly touted defensive commits. I think 3 of them just from IMG Academy alone, which includes Dalen Everett. He's the biggest loss that I've seen, who's now a Georgia commit, going to sign tomorrow, or I guess in a few hours now. It's past midnight. But he's gonna sign with Georgia now, and that's a huge loss. Just losing those players on its own in this class is huge, but I think what the big impact is what that says about the Clemson program going forward, and also what it says about the reason a lot of these kids were committed to Clemson. They weren't committed necessarily for Clemson or for Dabo. A lot of these defensive kids in particular were committed for Brent Venables, and now he's gone. Where does that leave you? Where does that leave you in the short term, and where does that leave you in the long term? I'm sure Clemson will be fine, but it's a lot of turmoil, a lot of change that they haven't had to deal with. Clemson's not been like in Alabama where their coordinators just rotate year after year after year, and they're fine. They're used to it. They don't even have the same roster turnover or coaching staff turnover that a Georgia has had. It's been very consistent there for a while, so it'll be very interesting to see how they handle all of this. I mean, they're now around 15 or 16 in the recruiting rankings, which puts them at like 3rd in the ACC alone, which is not good enough for Clemson. They are also, they're recruiting at essentially an equal level to their in-state rival, South Carolina. That's not good enough. That's a huge step down for them. And yes, South Carolina is doing a lot better under Shane Beamer, especially in recruiting, than they have been. But still, if you're Clemson and you want to maintain your dominance over the state, your dominance over the ACC, your dominance in college football and playoff appearances, you can't be recruiting in the 15s with the South Carolinas of the world. You can't do it, at least not consistently. You'll have good years still. You might not be a bad team or anything, but you're not going to be that consistent, dominant level program unless you get really lucky and hit on a lot of lower-rated guys. I think that is an absolutely massive deal for Clemson going forward. That has huge implications. Couple this with the transfer portal issues I talked about earlier. You get worse in recruiting, right, on the one hand, and then on the other hand, you don't leverage the transfer portal while other teams do. So you're now down in 2 big aspects of roster building, the 2 biggest, most important aspects of roster building in college football right now. What does that do for your program long term? It could be a really slippery slope going forward into the future. And then that's also still assuming, that's not even considering, what if the new coordinators that he promoted within don't perform at the same level that Tony Elliott and Brent Venables have on the field, just in the play calling and stuff. And to be honest, I really don't think they will, because both of them were very good coordinators, hence why they both got head coaching jobs, in particular Venables. There's a lot that could go wrong there. There's a lot. Your on-field coaching can slip. Your recruiting most definitely has and will slip, and you're not leveraging the transfer portal. That's a recipe for disaster long term if Clemson doesn't do something to help slow that down and get this thing going the other direction. And then the last major issue facing Clemson, I feel, and it's not as big as the other ones are. It's also not as concrete of an issue as the other ones are. It's just an increasingly weakening national perception around the Clemson football program. A lot of people in the national scene are worried that Dabo is getting too stubborn. His lack of use in the transfer portal is very concerning at a national level. And add to this the loss of 3 of the other biggest people in that football program, your athletic director, both of your coordinators. All of a sudden, there's a lot of uncertainty in the national perception. It's not what it was in the past. Now it's more of a concerned, cautious approach with more of a hazy, unsure future going forward. Whereas used to, everybody kind of just knew what Clemson would be and what culture they had built. Now there's not a lot of certainty around that nationally. And I feel like you're starting to see that seep into the recruiting scene. And it hasn't really affected them too much yet. But I feel like long term, if this perception begins to continue to roll, you start to see another down year next year. They don't pull in another good recruiting class kind of thing. You could really start to see this start to snowball out of control. And I think that's something that Dabo and Clemson as a whole must do absolutely everything in their power to stop from getting worse, because perception does truly become reality, especially in the world of recruiting. Overall, though, I feel Clemson is finally facing adversity as a program after their recent run of success, and depending on how they handle it going forward, they could be in some serious trouble. But I also think that a lot of people are going to be too quick to doubt Dabo, who has honestly been an elite-level head coach to this point in his career. He's got multiple national championships. And for all the people who are going to say that the sky is falling, to me it's definitely a pretty big overreaction to this point. There are a lot of things to be concerned about. There are a lot of things to watch going forward. But, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater kind of thing. Don't panic and just assume, oh, well, Clemson's just going to be terrible now, because they're not. In all likelihood, Clemson will be fine going forward. Even if they do take a step or two back as a program, it's not like they're just going to fall off a cliff overnight. It is definitely most certainly worth watching and monitoring going forward, though, and it has me and a lot of other people who are actually around the program, unlike me, concerned about the future with Clemson. But with all that being said, if you have made it this far in the video, you are absolutely amazing, and I really appreciate the support. Be sure to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel for more college football content like this in the future, because it really helps out the channel tremendously, and I will continue to be uploading a lot of college football content, especially with early signing day coming right around the corner. That is something to watch out for. Anyway, also let me know down in the comment section below what you think about Dabo, the Clemson program as a whole going forward. How big of an issue do you think this is? Do you think this is minor? Do you think this is major? Let me know your thoughts. Anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.